Action! Activate!
Dude.
Omega Ranger figure, a very appropriate thing for what we're doing today. What are we doing today? Who am I? Well, I'm Gazbot, and if I'm Gazbot, then this is Action Activate, and that, of course, means that this gentleman is with me.
I am here. It is the big dog.
It is the big dog. I remember what you talked about before, how in your head, like, this figure is not SPD from SPD, but actually from Shattered Past.
Yep.
And I kind of get that, because he's a much more developed character, much more interesting character in this than he is in Power Ranger canon, unfortunately.
Anything. Yeah.
So we are here to talk about Crimson Vision Studios Shattered Past 4 fan film episode. 5 is about to come out. We're just catching up on 4 now. We're not going to go into other, we will eventually cover other things, but for today, just right now, we're covering episode 4. So if you haven't seen the other episodes, you probably want to go watch those and or our other recaps. But if not, you want to come in fresh, fine, here we go.
Yeah. One thing before going into 4, I know we talked about it off screen, but because of how the extended Power Rangers fan film universe is released, it was hard to see on one channel, because you kind of can't, a definitive order on stuff. So because we watched these in the past, ironically, I don't remember what came out right before and right after. I believe it goes Rise of the Ninja 1 and 2, First Ninja, all of those episodes. I forget if there's 3 now.
I think we're still waiting for 3 at this point.
Okay, then maybe the first 2. And then all those,
Bloodline.
and then I think Bloodline came after, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was right before.
I don't remember if it came before or after, but we've seen the end of credits teaser trailers of the evil looking Andros with TK.
Yeah,
so we've seen those characters at least, whether or not that episode actually came out. And that's the other thing. Shattered Past and Rise of the Ninja and First Ninja are all Crimson Vision Studios, but some of them are on Nerdbot and some of them are on Crimson Vision. And then so that's where it gets a little confusing too, because there's not like a playlist of everything, which is interesting, because actually I'll go ahead and put this up. When I was rewatching this, oops, I keep doing the wrong thing. There we go. The first thing we see is Psycho Red Patrick David, and I'm like, do we know this yet? And I had that thought for a few of these characters, because similar to Catherine Sutherland, or Kat Hillard, I should say, reprising her role. So there's a lot of cool stuff that if you're only watching Shattered Past, now these guys we've seen, so that was fine. Unworthy, we've seen.
Yep.
David Yost as actually wait,
Lord.
I couldn't remember, but he
starts with a V. Warlord Vex. There we go.
So these are all awesome gets that are in this universe, but if you're only watching Shattered Past, you're now seeing them all for the first time. And depending on that, so it was just a thing where I was like, oh, is this kind of spoilery? Or are they kind of like blowing some surprises by doing this? But I also understand that, and similar with her, because I know we've seen her.
She was in episode 2 of Rise, and so was Warlord Vex.
So I guess she was in episode 1 of Rise, actually, at the end.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I guess it's just, if you're only watching this, these are kind of spoilery. But if you're only watching this, I guess they want to entice you to watch the others, so that works, I guess. And then, of course, we know him.
Brody, that is from the episode coming up. That is from the episode coming up.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the actual episode, Crimson Vision Studios.
So before we start, initial impressions.
I liked it. I liked the last episode better. Not by a huge margin, but and maybe it's because I hadn't watched any of these in a little while. And so coming back to that universe, I was like really excited for the last episode, and it like kind of won. I remember saying I wasn't in the mood to do that video that day, and then when I started watching it, I got all pumped up and stuff. And then this one was fine; it was good. We'll go through it. And I have complaints and praise. But it was just like I don't know, like a half a grade, not as good for some reason. I don't know exactly why.
I think I can tell you why.
Okay.
So before diving straight into plot, there's two really cool fights in this.
Mm-hmm.
There's more than two fights, but two that stick out in my memory when I think back on the episode. And then this does a lot of setup. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't do it where it's just like all you get is setup and that's it. But like there's a lot of seeds being planted that it's like, okay, next episode, off the chain. This
I
episode, you
agree.
gotta walk before you can run.
I do agree that there is a lot of setup for next episode, and it's funny because I was watching a show. Oh my god, Yellow Jackets. I've been
Oh
watching.
yeah, yeah.
Which I've talked to you about. At full disclosure, I have friends that worked on that show. I have friends that created that show, but I was talking to Q about it because we were just catching up because I missed episode over the holidays, and it was a similar thing where the last two episodes, while still very good and I'm still invested, I'm like, these weren't quite as good as the last few. And she said to me almost exactly what you did. She's like, yeah, but the next couple episodes are going to be nuts. So this is the kind of build up in the lull. And it's like, I guess I just, whatever the franchise is, I'm like, what's this lull before the storm? I don't expect this, even though it always happens.
So full disclosure, since you brought up Yellow Jackets,
Yeah.
the other day Tessa was scrolling through, and I had mentioned a few times in passing, like, "Oh, Gaz and Q know, the people who made Yellow Jacket." And she's like, oh, "Okay," and she kind of forgot, and then went and was like, "Oh, I want to, watch a show. I heard good things about it. Let me watch it." Watched the first episode either yesterday or the day before, and then immediately after was like, okay, either you're going to watch the first episode the next day or I'm watching the series without you. That's how invested she is. So after this, I'm going to go watch episode 1 so we can watch episode 2 onward.
There you go. Well, you'll have the advantage that you could binge through them, whereas we had to wait week to week for the most part.
Yeah.
That aside, have nothing to do with Power Rangers.
Yeah. So, anyways, awesome fight right out of the gate right here.
I agree. And the note I have, it was fun to see Tommy fighting Tommy, but this version of the Dino Thunder Tommy, the note I have more than the fight or anything else. We've talked before about the actor, and I wrote his name down, who does, I think it's Ryan Nelson, who does the voice of like Draken Tommy. And I double checked. I'm like, did he do both of these? And he did, because he did such a good job of doing a Tommy voice that was different. Like the Draken voice is this like kind of evil. The Dino Thunder voice sounded a lot more like what most people would do, like an imitation of Tommy. I'm like, yeah, hey everybody, like, and which I thought was good and appropriate for this character. And so it really made a distinction between the kind of over the top hero Tommy and then this new version. And I really liked that. That was some good voice acting.
I really liked it, and I also like how this segment is maybe 3 minutes tops, probably even less than that, and they just catch you up so quickly. Little plot questions you have. They're like, "Who are you? I'm you. Okay, I'm a different one," and timelines and all this
through action too. They're not sitting talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also. Oh, in the beginning, another thing they talk about in the beginning, and this is probably a Bloodlines of the Grid reveal. Again, timelines, I forget where they... It's funny, timelines within the show, but also timelines of when you watch these videos.
Yeah.
TK Johnson said he's the Red Fusion Space Ranger. And they show him morphed for a second, and he's basically in Space Red, but he has a bit of turbo styling on his helmet, which I love. I think that's awesome.
Yes.
But I don't know that we ever see that in this episode spoilers till the very end. But I don't know... It's something I wish wasn't revealed at the beginning of this episode. Yeah. Because you see it at the end, it would have been so much more powerful. But I always think people give away too much in the beginning of everything. So that's just me.
Yeah. I agree. I think those elements are cool. We'll touch on those later. Right here though, asking about the gold dino gem, which in regular Power Ranger canon, it's not a thing. But
I didn't think it was, but I'm like, am I forgetting something? Or then I was thinking, unless they mean like an energem from like Dino Charge or Dino Fury, like is there some way of like another, like, well, Dino Charge had literal energems. Dino Fury doesn't, but they could always do that thing where like they crack open the morpher and look, there was a gem inside, so that was my thought, that maybe
so this one is, they've already said it's 100% original. It's going to be a brand new gold Dino Thunder Ranger.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which is awesome.
They've said that in officially, but not in canon in the
in the extended Power Rangers fan film universe, they have made their own gold Dino Thunder Ranger that we are going to see. That's awesome. And there's another original ranger that we'll get to as well that is
Yeah.
being teased.
Yes. And he takes and Draken takes the Brachio staff, which is cool too.
Yeah, which I love because obviously in the comics we've seen in the Shattered Grid storyline, he starts, going a little buck wild and,
Grabbing different
putting different
powers.
aspects into him and blah, blah, blah. But this is just a very subtle, like, oh, another Tommy weapon.
Already know how to use it, already connected to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And then, boom, action immediately. Once again, love
Time
it.
Bros fighting Psycho Green. Yeah. And once again, I've said this before, but I love how Omega gets like the cuff or like part of the uniform of the weapon he's using. I always think that's cool.
Yeah. And it actually took me a sec to just realize because he's matching Time Force Red's blaster, that is supposed to be Time Force Blue.
Yeah. What do you mean?
The first couple times I watched this, I assumed like, oh, we just haven't seen a morph yet, a neutral gauntlet, and he's got a bluish jacket, whatever. But now I'm actually seeing it in a freeze frame. Oh, this is Time Force. Got it.
I guess I already got that, but yes, you're correct. It's a nice touch. And then we pull back, and it's not just the Time Bros. They got TK there against Psycho Green, and it's interesting because at the end of the last episode, it's sort of like, "Who are you? How do you know me?" And now it's like, okay, well, something happened in the middle of a fight. Very, I'm gonna say Indiana Jones, but that's not quite right, but I like it. We didn't need to have an explanation, and it's kind of fun that we jump in the middle.
Yeah.
And then they do the what do they call it? The time jump back? I forget what it's called.
Omega Rewind.
Oh, I have it written right here. Omega Rewind. Yeah. And they do it, and they address how it's like we can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
They go to this cave. The sound was interesting here.
Yeah, I think it was the echo from the cave.
Yeah, I'm not complaining about the sound because I could hear what everybody said. But my guess is that they've recorded like wild sound or whatever you call it, where they just have like a boom in that scene for most of these lines. And it was just clear enough that they could hear it, but there was a bit of like an echo around it. And it's interesting because I feel like usually in these scenes, it's either they record it that way and it's terrible and you can't hear it, or they overdub it later so it's clear. And I feel like they recorded it and it just came out okay. And maybe dubbed over a couple lines. And I can't decide if I liked it or not. Like I didn't hate it, but I can't decide if I'm like, oh, I like that they used that effect, or if I'm like, because it's here's the thing. What did I write? I said something like it's realistic. It's truthful in how this would sound.
Yeah.
But is that what we want? And I don't know the answer.
I saw them in that cave, and once I started to hear the audio different than we heard before, I'm like, I accept this. And then I was just listening to their plan.
I got
there's
over
a little,
and again, I don't. This is more. Again, I'm not saying it's bad or good. It's noticeable, and I wonder if it was like a good choice. It wasn't a bad choice. Was it a good choice? I guess is really what I'm wondering. Yeah.
One thing in this scene that we have to be reminded of is that the Time Bros are along the same kind of wavelengths for the most part, but TK is either from a different timeline or like partially in the future in the timeline because he already knows them.
Yes, the impression I got was that he is from the future because he calls them like Baby Omega and he knows about them and they don't know him. So I guess he could be from another timeline, but it doesn't really matter that much. He's from the future. Yeah. And they're both fugitives too at this point.
Yeah.
Well, but he refers. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say we're thinking the same thing of him kind of dropping some knowledge bombs of like, yeah, I'm with the Time Force Legend and the Omega Ranger, and he's like, wait, what? A legend? And he's like, anyways.
Yeah, because up to this point, we knew Omega was special. He's got all these other powers. He's running around, but the way they made it seem was like, well, this is just the current Time Force Red that happened to team up with him. But other than that, he's not any more special than any other Power Ranger. But now it's like, oh, the Legend. Wait, what?
Yeah, and it makes sense because of how we see him later in the episode getting a gift. You're like, oh, that would be legendary. Yeah. I'm cool with that.
And although this is like retconned and not actually in Time Force, Sky always talks about how living up to the legacy of his father and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, any Red Ranger, I guess. But like if he was beyond even a regular Red Ranger, it would make even more sense for Sky to be that driven and that like hard-nosed. They also mentioned that the Green Ranger, the Green Psycho Ranger, I should say, is getting stronger, which I appreciate because it's like, what he's like, how's he handling all three of them now? And it's like, oh, he's getting stronger. Fine. Yeah. We don't know why. It doesn't matter. You acknowledge that he's getting stronger. Good.
I'm assuming from his dagger. That is my guess.
I assumed Lord Draken was funneling power to him.
I'll bring it up when relevant, but we'll go back to that. So right now they're coming up with a plan. Omega's like, we should just kind of see
Omega
how it
style.
goes. And they're like,
Yeah.
that, no, we're not doing
I
that.
I
He's
do
like,
also again
but I
go
have a plan.
but also going back into comedy done right, he's like, we'll just kind of show up and have no plan and just whatever. And they're both like, oh, that's terrible. Like it's like because you for a second I'm like, are they gonna go for this?
Yeah.
Um unrelated, well, related because we're looking at if you look at TK's earring, it's like a little triangle. Now,
Yeah.
this could just be like his character as a piece of jewelry, blah blah blah. But because of like, I kept wondering, like, is that something? Is that a reference to something? Is that a piece of
I was
something?
thinking the same thing.
And as of now, I don't know what it is. But I kept and his because his necklace ends up being the turbo key. So like you know, I had a similar thought about is that something? But as of now, we don't.
Yeah, I'm unsure, but I don't know. One thing I do notice though, as I watch this scene, I don't know if you've investigated very much, but all of these jackets are available for purchase, by the
Oh,
way.
I know, and I've thought about it.
Yeah, same. So short, time out. Which jacket would you get if you could only get one? Not in the scene, but that are available on that site. Nerded Up Now, I think is what it's called. Or
Well, I
Nerd
know
Up
they have
Now.
SPD and Time Force and In Space. Are those the only ones currently available?
No, they have Wild Force, they have Ninja Storm, they have Dino Fury, they have a
You know what? I'd
ton.
have to look at the site again because I know they're available, but I've kind of purposely not looked too hard because I don't really have the cash to be buying one right now.
They're not very expensive, I will say. They're like $60 maybe.
I know, but you know, holidays and whatnot, it's
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
not
I'm
time
just
for me to
saying in
be
general.
shopping for myself. So I'm gonna just say in this scene, out of these three, um, sadly, I'd probably go with SPD, and I say sadly because it's kind of the least
It's so
interesting.
neutral. Yeah.
But I feel like I tend to wear dark colors, and I feel like the gray was probably the most interesting because it's got different aspects. But I would almost never wear it. It would look cool, but I would never wear it. Red, I would only wear if I felt like in a certain mood or something. The SPD jacket, I could see wearing it every day. So I'm
Yeah.
just like, I don't know that it's my favorite design, but for me, who I am, yeah, I'd wear that every day.
I love the
You?
Time Force jacket, I'll be honest.
It looks great, but would you wear it all the time? I
No,
don't. Red is a strong color. No,
I wouldn't, but man, it is cool.
you're also a red guy more than I am too. So
That's
then,
also
as far
true.
as Red Ranger,
I am much more of a primary color person than you.
well, yes, but I mean, in terms of Power Rangers fandom, you tend to like Red Rangers. Your favorite Ranger is a Red Ranger. You know that sort of thing.
I don't know what you mean, guess.
The
Just happen to have a casual Red Ranger next to me.
only Ranger I have next to me is Omega right now.
I mean, at least we both have legendary, Rangers.
True, true.
But back on the story, so they're like, your no plan sucks. He's like, I actually do have a plan. I'm gonna fight him, and you guys are gonna ambush him, and then we're gonna
Right.
trap him in an SPD card. And they're like, I guess. I
It's
mean,
kind of a plan. And in there, TK does another one of his little future truth bombs, and he mumbles like, "That's why you never caught me in Andros." This is the closed captioning's getting it wrong, but they're
Yeah.
like, "What?" And so that leads you to believe, oh, him and Andros are evil on the wrong side of the law, doing like they're antagonists.
There's
to each
something
other.
different. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
something undertoned.
Yeah, and if Omega was still an outlaw, then he would have potentially be the one being hunted. Although Omega could be an outlaw going after other outlaws, whatever, who knows? But yeah, so clearly they're not just buddies in the future.
Yeah, the way I see it is, I don't think, reading ahead, I don't think Andros and TK are villains, but I think if it's like Draken and Psycho Green on this side, Time Bros on the other, I think it's like adjacent is the two of them where they're like, we're not against you, we're not always with you, but we're with you right now because we need you to like help us serve our needs. More like anti-heroes than anything else.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a Punisher, where like
exactly,
he's never gonna shoot at Spider-Man, but he's gonna do stuff Spider-Man doesn't like.
exactly, yeah. Shout out to
yeah.
Mark again, man. Awesome stuff at Psycho Green.
Yeah. Sorry, please continue.
That was nothing else need to be said.
Okay. I like going back to talking about the actors as opposed to the characters. Pull out the Ninja Storm sword here, which seems appropriate because Colin also plays Jackson Brooks. So it's like, I mean, he can pull out any weapon, but I'm sure him must have thought like, oh, it'd be cool to have both my characters like use the kind of the same power at one point. Like I don't know, just
because I remember we see him scan it in like episode 1 or 2.
Yeah, like at the end of an episode, just like randomly.
Yeah, like he goes and finds it with Saba, and he's like, "Bloop, got that one."
Yep. He yells something though. Let me advance that for a second. When he powers it up, there's a lot of cool sword fighting stills here. When I was looking through, I was like a lot of good poses and stuff. But when he powers it up, he says something, and I wasn't sure.
I think it's Omega Access, isn't it?
No, Omega Access. But then he does this power up move. Oh, it comes later.
Oh yeah, the finisher. Yeah.
And I couldn't hear what he said. I wasn't sure if it was like the standard. That's a cool kick with that.
Yeah.
If that was the standard like Ninja Storm like call out, or if it was something different, because it was sort of like and like energy, and I was like, I don't know what he said there. Oh yeah, this
I
part
do
right
like
here.
it though, and they give the good effect for it of and boom.
Yeah, it
Final
all works.
golden mega strike, supreme force fury.
A lot of cool like just when I was watching it before,
just great shots.
Yeah, just any one of these could be like a cool desktop or something. Like,
yeah,
good angles, good job, cinematographer or director or whoever picked these.
One thing, keep a pause on here for a sec. To kind of back up that point, a lot of times when you look at Power Rangers, a lot of the things that they do or say or sometimes wear are just goofy. But this is one of the cooler things where it's like, you got every accessory out that you possibly can and you're unmorphed, and damn, that looks cool, man.
Yeah. It makes me think a little bit of like Last Ronin, Ninja Turtles or something like that, where it's like, I used to be part of this team. Now it's just me. So I'm pulling the best pieces of that team onto me. And like, it looks
and the way he has the sword slung, I'm like, dang, that looks cool too. Good choices, guys. Good choices.
Agreed.
All right.
So then he judges them with the SPD. Then they use the containment card.
He says one thing though. He's like, yeah, whatever. You're going to lose.
Who does?
Psycho Green.
Yeah, he's like, this doesn't matter. We've done this before, or whatever. Like, he's not happy about it, but he's sort of like,
so we
did the judgment, and we throw him in the
car. He gets judged.
Landon takes the Psycho Green knife. Actually, it's weird. Do they show? Hold on. Talks about it, but I think it's one of those things that they do off. Oh no, they do show it. Okay, so he picks it up and he says something like, "He says Omega Access."
Yep, and then he takes it. So. Yeah. I think that Omega Green was getting powerful through the dagger. Because in the comics they actually use it at one point to like charge a ship, I think. Like as an energy source. They're like, here's the green dagger.
What charges it?
Green chaos energy.
Oh, so it's not like he has to go kill people or something, just over time it charges.
I think it kind of helps. My understanding is it's like the opposite of the green candle arc in Mighty Morphin, where like that was taking away Tommy's powers because it was tied to it, and this is like, oh, this is just a conduit for it. Like it's just storing it up like a big old battery. That
so it's like red chaos energy for Wanda in MCU,
possibly.
But she does, yeah, okay.
Anywho,
but so does that lead into Landon's like power up?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Right now he has the red chronomorpher, and now he has the Psycho Green dagger.
Right.
As of this instant.
As of this moment, yeah. So they decide to split up.
Oops, yeah.
They decide to split up, and TK says his mission is to stay with Omega, and so they kind of argue about it. And then a ship goes overhead. And what's cool is right around this time, the wind picks up. And I don't think, if they have some kind of big industrial fan, more power to them, and I'm impressed. But the impression I get is that the wind is just picking up in town.
Yeah.
And it was perfect though, because it's like, oh, this is the beginning of like, we're going to split up, and there's a lot of heavy stuff doing and like foreshadowing. And I thought it was like, I don't know, it just really fit.
It just works.
So either they in production did that, in which case cool, or they got really lucky and like used it to their advantage.
They got really lucky.
But how they also got lucky, or at least technically savvy, is it didn't affect the audio. Like one of the other ones we were watching where they were like, oh yeah, the audio got kind of messed up. Audio sounded fine, and we just had a cool visual thing with the wind there. You can see still going here, like hair blowing a little bit. You hear it, but not in a good way. It just seems very epic. There was a joke in here that I liked. Oh, he said something about like, we'll meet back up, and he's like, yeah, I'll get there before the pre-battle banter's over. Again, another joke I like, and very self-aware, very Akiba Ranger, very Tokuger, very
And then it's, you ready for this? Nope, but let's go anyway.
Yeah.
So now we get this character that we're unsure of.
Well, wait, didn't we see him before? Because as soon as I saw him, I knew who he was. Why did I know who he was?
So if you watched any other Crimson Vision Studios productions, he is
Anton Mercer.
Well, in this, yeah, but that actor was Impulse in the Reverse Flash series.
Oh, that's not what I was thinking of. No, I thought we had seen this actor as Anton Mercer somewhere before
If
this.
I don't remember, but I know that he's Anton Mercer.
Maybe I saw it in a trailer. Like I just remember, and maybe I just guessed. I don't know, but I remember thinking like, oh, okay, this is like a young Anton Mercer.
Well, you might be getting it confused too with when they're like, "Hey, guess who we got as Anton Mercer?"
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. that could be it that I just saw on the social media.
Yeah,
But the way he's talking too, it's pretty clear who he is
yeah.
if you're familiar with Dino Thunder. Um, Again, comparing it to another. Oh, I keep playing it. I don't want to get a copyright strike. Comparing it to another of their own videos. I think it was the same one actually. It was because it was First Ninja episode. No, Rise of the Ninja, which is the one that had Daishi. That was Rise of the Ninja.
Yes.
That's the one where they had some sound issues. And then that's also the one where I wasn't thrilled with the way they did the split personality of Daishi in terms of filming. And this one was much better.
Yes.
It was just like a little bit of a different voice, a different camera angle. It made it really clear when each one of what personality was speaking very clearly.
Yeah.
And I liked that.
The other thing I like is going back to the first fight when Draken shows up. He's like, "Oh, I'm at the wrong time," because clearly this is a young Anton Mercer.
Yes.
And he's gonna have to find him at a different point in the timeline.
Yeah. Also, there was a line Anton said here. I forgot that was a riff on the tagline. Because like in the song, it's like to save the future, go back to the past. Wait, what is it? To save the future, go back to the past.
We got to go back. Omega Time Jump, Power Ranger Shatter Past. Go. Omega Access.
The point is, Mercer has a line that's very, very similar, where he's like, "Oh, to own the future, I'm gonna have to look into the past or something."
Yeah,
and it was like almost that line, and I feel like again that had to be on like a purposeful.
Yeah, for sure.
To the song.
But again, another seed planted where I'm like, damn it, guys, just show me that Gold Ranger, man. I just want to see it. I just want to see it.
So here is where I might be an idiot, because or have not followed properly, because here's Landon with his wife that was just saved. Okay, she's safe. Now, what I thought had happened was in his timeline, like our present, for lack of a better term, his wife had died.
Yes.
And this is her from a time before she died, but he still had to rescue her so that his timeline was intact.
Yes.
Okay. But during this, so you thought the same thing?
Yes.
Okay. During this conversation, she's like, "Oh, thank you." And she knows who he is and stuff. And then.
No, she doesn't know who he is. She's like, "Thank you. Wait, when are you from?"
Yes. And he says, without getting too much into it, we haven't actually met yet, but I know our story. And then she says, "Let me guess, someone spoiled her." So, okay, so this is so long ago that they hadn't even dated yet.
Yes.
So she seems to know him, I guess, from class or whatever.
I know. So she, if I remember correctly, she knows of the legend of like the Time Bros, because I think she actually says, "Oh, the 3 Time Rangers or Bros."
Even though that happens later because of the nature of Time Force. Yeah.
Yeah,
wait,
where
she has an SPD jacket on though.
She does. Yeah, I noticed.
So I assumed she was in Time Force, which again would make but no, because Time Force, like prime Time Force timeline, not talking about like Wes and his timeline, takes place further in the future than SPD.
Correct.
So how could someone from SPD know of people further in the future than he is when they were married?
Because she knows about Time Force because of Wes and his time. So like because
Time Force exists.
Yeah, it's like that weird loop where it's like you can't have it created because you didn't learn about it, but then we learned about it, so we created it, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right, but she seems to specifically, like you said, know about the legendary. So she's just saying the legendary Time Force, as in I know Time Force exists. Not
well, because right now,
yeah.
So if she's from the future, because I think SPD is like 2040 or something.
The year is 2040 is what they say at the beginning of Shattered Past.
Okay.
So if SPD is 2040, then the present. Oh yeah, because a little bit further in the future than the SPD we watched in the real world.
Yeah.
Saban, because the Omega Ranger is supposed to wait. He's supposed to be the first Omega Ranger, right? Just grown up.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like 20 years past whenever SPD was supposed to be the show.
Yes.
Okay. So the year is 2040. So then SPD must have been like 2010? No,
I think
2020.
it's like 2025.
Okay, so the original SPD is almost where we are in the real world now,
Yeah.
and this is like 20 or so years beyond that.
Yes. But she is also from the past if they're both Sky's parents. Timey-wimey. That's where we're going. We spent so much time timey-wimey.
Well,
Uh,
I guess I thought I was being an idiot, and maybe I was being a little bit of an idiot, but it's not that I got it all wrong. It's that, oh, this is really weird, and it's going to unfold in a bizarre way. Is what you're getting from it.
yes. What I think is they're gonna jump again, presumably as a team. They're gonna jump somewhere in SPD's past,
Mm-hmm.
but either our present or past. Do something very epic, and then their legend moves on throughout the rest of time.
Okay. All right. Yes. Okay. So yes, I guess I'm not as dumb or as I thought I was, but it's more complicated than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I won't argue with you saying you're dumb, but
yeah,
I'm also, not
she
going
did
to
all.
say
Oh,
that you're lost.
but it was worth saying that she said time trio, which
Yes.
at this point you would think, okay, we got the time bros and then we got TK. That's the time trio.
I don't think
But
that's it.
if what you're saying is true, she could be the third one of the time trio and doesn't know that she's one. I've heard of the legendary trio, and then it turns out she's one of them. I hope you're
Exactly.
right, because that would be awesome.
Yes.
That would be awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I think TK is going to be involved, but my call shot right now is
Yeah.
the reason TK has to stay with Omega is he has to make sure he lives so that he can interact with TK in the future when TK doesn't know him. But in doing so, TK might die to save Sam so that Sam can interact with him like when he first meets him in Bloodline. It's going to be my call shot.
Maybe, or maybe just keep an eye on him for whatever plans TK and Andros have. Yeah. I don't know what it is about these scenes inside here and going into the elevator, but they look great.
Yeah, the lighting is awesome.
Everything is just like, and not that it ever looks bad, but sometimes it looks a little bit like, okay, this isn't a film I'd see in the movie theater, but something about these, the lighting, the quality, like it looks like really.
So the lighting with that, fun fact, these two are dating in real life and also are working on other projects.
Right.
They're working on a series called Mystery Incorporated where they play Fred and Daphne. And I am very stoked to see it after watching what they've seen here and doing a deep dive on their socials.
If you change their clothing, I could see it.
Like, exactly. Yeah, that's why I'm like, yep, down. Do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, this guy, is he supposed to be somebody?
No.
I didn't think so. I didn't know.
With gauges.
Well, I didn't think, I was like, is he supposed to represent a character in the universe, or is he an actor that was maybe like a secondary character on one of the seasons that I don't remember? Like, I didn't. Okay, he's just an actor. He's just a guy. Okay. But Catherine Hillard, for some reason, is important, rich, powerful enough that she's got like this special thing with a guy working for her. We don't know what she's doing. I think they say at this point, because even though we just went through that whole time thing, right now they're in 2021 or 2020, after like present day when they filmed it.
Yes.
Which is interesting for two reasons. One, because I noticed the little thing that wear the face mask and stuff, and I was like, wait, that makes no. And I'm like, oh no, because they're in present day, so it does make sense. Okay, because I thought that was just like a mistake, but no, they covered that. But the other thing is that means theoretically that they are in the Dino Fury timeline.
That's what they mentioned when he dropped. They're like, where are we? 2021?
Oh, yes.
It's like the Dino Fury era.
Yes. And now they could just be mentioning that because that's just true and that's where they are and that's the season it's on. And that's fine and good enough. But they've done a good job of pulling in actors from Ranger series. And from what we know, that series is wrapped in terms of the actors. And many of them are here in the States. Many of them are in LA and already doing conventions and stuff.
Yeah, it's like, hey.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wonder who, maybe somebody could show up. I don't know. Who would you want to show up from Dino Fury?
This is.
I mean, I'd be happy with anybody, but
yeah, I would too. It's gonna sound weird, but I'd actually want Dino Fury Black to be involved.
Okay, why Black?
I feel like depending on the location, if they say like we're in LA, then he's making music around there after the show is over, and he's the one who's nearby, and he's like, he's always the one who seems like he wants to help everybody else before himself. So it
Hmm.
seems like for this, it makes sense of like he stumbles upon this situation as opposed to being like the one that has to be recruited maybe, or like they
Gotcha.
seek him out because of something they see in him that sets him apart from the other ranger. I don't know.
Okay, interesting. That I see. So you're going for like because of the character as it's already been set up, you could see an interesting way of pulling him in.
Yeah.
My first thought is Zato, because despite earlier things, he's become my favorite on the show currently. And like I can imagine, because he's an alien and he's old and stuff, I can imagine him having different insight to certain things. And
Yep.
if they come into conflict with Andros, I like the idea of Zato fighting Andros. I don't know
That would be
exactly
cool.
why, but something about the two of them,
They have
like
a lot of
Andros,
parallels.
yeah, but Andros is like the the very brooding one, and Zato's a very bright, like goofy one, and like but they're both warriors from another planet. Like I can see that. All that being said, to me, that's like the easy pick. That's like I would also, and again, I'd like to see anybody, but I would also kind of like to see Ion for the exact opposite reason. He is my least favorite Ranger on Dino Fury currently, and I stress currently. Where we are now, we haven't even finished
Like
season
3 episodes of him being involved.
Yes, because of having seen people like William Schufelt and other Rangers that didn't necessarily shine in their own seasons, see what they would do in here. So I feel like Ion would be like, I want to see what he could do with this character under a different director and writer, and Zato would be like, he's going to be good no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Javi's an
think
interesting pick.
if they did it, it would definitely be in this. I don't think Christopher Kamen Lee would write in other Rangers he doesn't know into Bloodline, personally.
Mm.
That's the
Well,
only thing I think would be like, I don't
but
think he
no,
would have the thought process you did.
right. But you're forgetting the first part of what I said. These actors are in America, are in LA, and are doing conventions. So he may meet some of them, or maybe he already has, because some of them have done conventions already. Some are about to do some in January. So even if what you're saying is true, like you know how it is. Well, I assume you know how it is at these conventions. You get to know everybody, and if you're a Ranger actor you're like Rangers that have never had any reason to meet beforehand become friends because they see each other at conventions.
Yes.
So
No,
yeah,
I 100% get that. He strikes me as the kind of guy who he will write a full story and then start doing the shooting and producing and all that. Where like I think his Bloodline story is done
right.
already
Okay.
before Dino Fury is wrapped or he got to meet anybody. And it's
Got
like, here's who I know can commit. Here's
Mhm.
who I've already talked about. And like, I'm not going to write something that isn't a sure thing. Here we go. That's what
I
I
hope,
think
I
personally.
hope you're wrong. I mean, it makes sense. I hope you're wrong that he couldn't find a way to like squeeze other people in. If not, then he could be elsewhere. But like for what I was saying with Zato, I wanted to see Zato and Andros.
Yeah,
That
no, I think it would be awesome because, like I said, they have huge parallels.
yeah.
Speaking of
Yes.
parallels, parallel
Good.
morphs, man.
What?
This is a good. I said parallel morphs, man. This is a cool scene.
Well, I think you're jumping ahead a little bit. All right.
No.
Is this where they morph?
Yes.
I
This is
thought
where
we
their
cut
big
back.
fight is with Draken.
I thought we cut back to the. Oh, you're right. I thought we cut back to the elevator.
Boom!
Okay, there's your ninja shield for you. He asked if he has any advice from his future self. He's like, "Oh, you got this one thing about having
Always having a
always have a
backup plan.
backup plan and all that stuff." Oh wait, did we skip the part with Catherine
Nope,
Southern?
that's later.
Okay, so I had it backwards. Okay,
Yes.
yeah. This was awesome, but tell me this: did you like? I'm trying to see if I made a note of it. Okay, did you like? I think he was going to say it's morphin time because when he didn't, I was like, oh.
Who would say it's morphin time?
Well, either one of them. But see, right here it says, well, then I guess there's just one thing left to say.
Yeah,
And they
at
said
first I
ready.
thought that, and then I was
Yeah.
like, oh, they both don't say that in their morph, so that's fine.
No, but it doesn't matter. You could like any team, you could say it's morphin time, and then they do
you're
their
morph.
morph. They
Yeah,
do
I
that
know.
all the time. It's not wrong, but it was just the verbiage was odd because when he says there's only one thing left to say, I thought for sure he was one of them was going to say it's morphin time.
Yeah.
The fact they didn't isn't that big a deal, but it just threw me off. Like, he's ready.
So speaking of morphs, we know what his morph is. What did you think of TK's like actual like henshin that he did?
I love it.
I know it's so cool. It's so cool. So
Here's why I love it. I mean, because they did a good job, and so when I say what I'm going to say next, it's not an insult. They didn't make it look as good as they could. They didn't make it look modern and perfect. It looks like they took the Deca Ranger in space era kind of effects, and like they used the little lines behind them that you saw in
yes.
Mega. I said Deca Ranger, I meant Mega Ranger.
Yep.
And they zhuzhed it up a little bit. It's a little bit cool, but it's like even when this comes on and does the thing and the little lights flash like turbo, it's just it's so perfectly retro. It's so perfectly retro. I loved it.
Yeah, everything about this helmet design is cool.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of cool fan designs. I mean, not to boost your ego any more than I need to, but like I remember when you used to do prior to Action Activate, where you would do the Friday live stream, just like you drawing, and there were a couple times I was like, why don't you draw a helmet where you put like 3 things together? And you're like, okay. And you did it. And a lot of those were cool. And I've seen a lot of cool ones and a lot of not cool ones. And this, I think, is a perfect kind of blend of it's not trying too hard, but it just fits them together enough where like you can't tell, is it more turbo or is it more in space? I don't know. And like that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a perfect blend. The suit is definitely in space, but the helmet is like, yeah, perfect blend. And then the Omega one is good too, but it was less, it was more straightforward good. And like I feel like yeah, Omega was good in the way I expected it to be. And the other one was a little bit more of like, oh, okay, I see where you're going here.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, to be fair, is Omega had a baseline and this was like, do what you want.
Yeah, true. And okay, so then here comes Draken, which they knew. Excuse me. And they talk about basically like, I've killed you a bunch of times. What's so special about you? I do like is the only reason you're special is because you're better at running away. Which is like, it kind of fits his character because it sort of like sounds like an insult. But he's like, yeah, man.
He's like, I literally run away often.
Yeah. How did I do this? That's so weird.
And it's funny because going back to our interview with Colin, it was right before he shot this because he's like, I just got my uniform and I definitely am worried about putting it on. And dude, solid. Both you guys look super duper rangery and everything's
before the last episode that happened, but your point stands.
Yeah. But yeah, very, very rangery, very solid.
And I did also like that he put the key in space. That was cool.
Same too. I appreciated that.
For some reason my notes are backwards. Okay, so they get into the fight here, and let me skip. Does the spiral saber busts out, which was cool.
Yep.
And then he does his light. I like when the Omega uses the lightning attack. Well, it's do I have it on my figure? Yeah, I even have it like on my figure that way. Like I feel like that was an underutilized power, and that's one of his few like natural special abilities. So he doesn't need to pull Omega Access out or anything. So I thought that was cool.
That'd be another reason you would want Ion in there because they double lightning.
That would be cool. Yeah. And it could be different too, because Ion, I feel like it's elemental lightning. Omega, I feel like it's something else. It's some kind of like
mechanical lightning.
Yeah, or morphin grid energy or something. It just seems different, So, and he takes it and he's like, that's all you got? Ridiculous. And then he throws this, it almost looks like psycho energy at him.
Yeah.
He catches it with his Omega. What's the Omega Morpher called? Is it just the Omega Morpher?
I think.
He catches it with his Morpher somehow. And then he's like, TK's like, send it to me. And he does a spiral saber smash. It's kind of a fastball special.
Yep.
Knocks him out of there. That was all cool. This is a part I don't like. Do you know what I'm going to say?
I could see why you don't like it.
Let me get a good shot. There's a close up that really shows the issue. With the Morpher. Yeah, here it is. Okay. His Morpher is shot because he took up all this energy and blah, 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 blah. And they make a point of cutting the glove and putting a burn mark on it.
Yes.
The Morpher, it looks undamaged. I mean, there's a couple chips on the paint because it's a prop they've been using, but there's no visible damage whatsoever.
Yeah.
I wanted to see it sparking, glowing, break a piece up. Maybe they didn't want to damage the prop, but like then
some kind of special effects for it.
And it just was like, it looks like his hand got hurt, not his Morpher. And that bummed me out because everything else was done so well.
I could see that.
Yeah. But is that what you thought I was going to say?
Yeah. I knew it was going to be a cosmetic critique as opposed to a plot critique.
Yeah, well, I mean, because the plot's fine.
Yeah,
and most of the cosmetic stuff is fine. And my first thought was that it should have been busted, like literally, like the gauge falling off, or like part of it cracked, and I'm like, well, maybe it's a money budget thing. How many of these do they have? Fine, but they do all the CGI, and not that I'm a CGI master, but I know putting a couple sparks on that wouldn't have been that difficult, and that would have been enough for me. I don't know. That bummed me out.
Yep. So right here, his morpher shot. I got to figure something out. I'm gonna bounce.
Now, does he open these portals without his morpher, or is the idea that the morpher is working? I guess it's working enough that he could open the portal, because then Draken says it's like shattered in some way.
Yeah, my understanding is his morpher shot in the sense of I'm not going to be able to continue this fight the way we've been doing it.
Mhm.
So it's working, but it's kind of like when your car has a check engine light and is a little funny. It'll drive. I don't know how far it'll drive. I don't know
We'll
how
go to
long.
7-Eleven, but we're not going to Las Vegas.
But for right now,
Yeah.
I can make it down the street. So that's how I took it with his morpher.
Fair enough.
I love the
Uh,
latches on that. They look so clean.
Yeah, they buffed him out really nice.
Oh man, that looks clean. All right. So
And
now
then
we
he
jump
says, "Oh,
back.
there's a shattered portal. I'm going to follow it and see where it goes," is what he says.
Yeah.
And then we go back to the city, and now we see, okay, here's Cat Hillard, I should say.
Yeah. And it is Hillard, not Oliver. I want to make that a note.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. I didn't even catch the significance of that.
Yeah.
Because going by the canon of the Hasbro, Saban, Disney stuff, they're together in some capacity, seemingly, from Dimensions of Danger.
Yeah.
So in this universe,
And in the comics.
What?
And in the comics.
And in the comics. But in this universe, is he dead? Did they get a divorce? Did they never got together? Did he turn evil and she stopped taking his name?
They keep saying
this is the Prime universe where there is no Draken.
Yes.
I don't know if they ever said this, but I assumed that the Prime universe is the universe that we as humans on Earth, not in this universe, watch on TV. The Saban, Disney, Hasbro, that's the Prime universe. And if that's the case, and there's no Draken, because there isn't in that, but there is a Tommy Oliver. So if that is the Prime universe, then what happened to Tommy? Unless it's a thing where, I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah. Brings up questions. Good catch. That's a ninja steal for you.
Thank you.
And so they know who she is, and she knows who he is. And they're talking about, and I feel like, as cool as this is a one and done for her. She's like, hey, by the way, here's something to help you, which is cool. And she got to be in the scenes with the cool lighting, so good for her.
Yeah, exactly.
And go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, she is like, hey, you're gonna need this. I know more than you, Nana Boo Boo. Here's a piece of his Zeonizer.
And she pulled some strings to get him reinstated to Time Force.
Yeah.
Which I don't know exactly how that works. I mean, just because she's a legendary ranger. Because
so here's what we'll go with, because your boy thinks of everything. In Dimensions of Danger, she was hanging out with Wes, who was also a part of Time Force, and maybe through the interdimensional.
And they did make it seem like he could connect to different people because of his stuff. Okay, there you go. I'll take it. I'll give you a half a ninja steal for that.
Just the one. But yeah, so she
half a Zeonizer. But going back to the beginning, where different actors were showing up, and like, did they, maybe it's not a spoiler because they showed up in this and that. As far as I know, unless I'm forgetting, this is her only scene in any of these crossovers.
That isn't a preview, yes.
Yes. So why put her at the beginning of the episode when this is the only time wouldn't it be better? And they even set it up like, ooh, who are we going to see? It's like, well, we know who you're going to see. We saw it in the beginning.
So what I will say, in full credit, if this was intentional, similar to the, I don't want to say complaint, similar to the comment we make about the intro for the regular Power Ranger season, before a character is introduced in an episode, it's like, oh man, what's all this stuff in the beginning? That looks cool. Let me keep watching. And that's what this is. It's like, Cat's in this? How? Find out next time. Like, that's how
You're probably right. And this comes back to why I'm not a good business person or marketer, because I'm always like, don't tell people, let the story happen. But you're right. That makes sense. That people, I'm assuming people are already invested or already watching this.
That was a good pause.
But you're thinking of the random person who's like, what's this? Oh, it has Power Rangers actors in it that I might know. Okay, let me look.
Yeah, like if you were showing this randomly or watching it and over your shoulder somebody goes, wait, wasn't that the original Blue Ranger at the beginning? Wait, I remember her. She was in the Turbo movie that I saw when I was a kid. Whatever. It's like, oh, I guess we're all watching now.
Okay, fair. That if that is the reason, I don't like that is the world we live in, that we have to do that, but I accept it as a necessity potentially. Then Landon asks about, he understands his duty, but can things be changed? And she's kind of like, yeah, that's not my area. You have to talk to somebody else. May the power protect you. I like that she said may the power protect you because that's
Yep.
like her era. But I'm guessing he wanted to change something so that his wife didn't die.
Yes.
And I'm also just now thinking, because of the stuff you said, it might be a thing where his wife never died. It might be a thing where she seems to die to his past self because she disappears from the time stream and goes to the future, and like this version of him gets his wife. So like from his point of view, she's dead for like 5 years, but she had just jumped into the future and she couldn't tell him because so that's now my theory.
That's your Ninja Steel point.
Okay, if it's true.
Hey, I got a theory point, so you get a theory point as well.
Okay, cool.
It doesn't count unless you do the arms. Ninja Steel theory arm point. There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There was a weird sound moment in the elevator here where it dropped off for some reason. I don't know why. All right. So then
this
time
bodyguard guy, sure.
Yeah. And so he's not only reinstated, but immediately has access to a time ship. So it's like, whoa, okay, he's really back now. He's got the full, and then we get a wood shot, and then back to Anton Mercer.
Yep.
Who is? Does he have a gold energem right
Yeah,
there?
That's what he has on his wrist now.
I did not catch that.
The gold Dino Gem.
Dino Gem. I keep saying energem. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is confusing because everything is similar but different.
Yes. Okay. I did not catch that.
Yeah. Draken shows up, and I have a strong feeling, is about to get mildly wrecked.
You think Draken's gonna get wrecked?
I think Draken is going to underestimate this gold Dino Gem, and it's going to be like, whoops, skedaddle out of here.
Oh, I thought it would be a thing where he'd maybe get wrecked, and then they'd team up until Draken could turn on him kind of thing.
I don't know, but that looks like the face of a man who either has no clue what's about to happen or is about to wreck Draken. One of the two.
It would be cool to see him beat Draken at least the first time.
Yeah.
Also, it'd be interesting to see if they do bring Dino Fury into it, have him fight Mesagog against some Dino Fury, like more mixing of those genres.
That'd be cool.
So yeah, this is, and again, keeping it all straight, this is in the past of the scene we just watched by like 20 years ish or whatever.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, so then that's the end, but of course there's a little stinger tag thing. I'm like, what's this over here? Some kind of shake, and he shows up once again. He doesn't know where he is because the time portal thing is messed up, and he's not with TK. We don't know where TK went, and he still has this glove that looks a little burned up, but is more. And then this lady shows up. Do we know this actress?
Nope, not. Okay, I don't know this actress.
I didn't recognize her from other. I mean, I'm sure she's done other things as an actress, but I didn't recognize her. Now I feel like here's a really dumb question, and I intentionally didn't look this up. In the comics, the original Rangers that left when Adam and Aisha and everybody showed up in the comics, they got to be another like secret set of Rangers.
Yes.
What were they called?
Omega Rangers.
Okay, I couldn't remember, and I'm like, I feel like this is a cool comic book thing that I'm not fully getting. But now you will tell us what is cool about this.
Yes. So in the comics, and I'm issues behind, but I assure you nothing has changed in terms of the number of Omega Rangers.
Right.
But as of now, where I'm at, there have been 4 Omega Rangers. There's red, there's yellow, and there's black. And then there's a blue ranger who isn't in that trio that you mentioned.
Right.
This is the pink Omega Ranger, which is not in the comics, but also makes sense of. That's kind of weird having only 4 Rangers, but I guess it follows the elements and whatever. So I don't know what element she has. Maybe it's love and it's a Captain Planet thing. Who knows? But yeah, this once she had the morpher up, I'm like, oh, that looks so cool in person.
Is that the same morpher from the comics?
Yeah. So in the comics, it depends on who draws it, how like big it looks, but essentially it's that over the hand. I think they made that, and then her hands are really small, so it looks enormous. Gotcha. But like in the comics, it's not that big.
This is like the first like film 3D representation you've seen of it, so it was just cool.
Yeah, right? So it slides over like that, and then sometimes, and I don't know if it's all the time, they have like rings on each finger to like hold it on there, so like they can open their hand and it won't like slide. It like stays in place, kind of thing. But yeah, very cool.
That was the end of my notes. I was just double checking myself. Yeah, so I knew this was cool, but I knew it was like that sort of thing. Like when you know certain Marvel movies, you're like, oh, did I catch that reference? Or like it's deeper. So that's awesome. All of that is awesome. But also, we'll joke. Well, not even a joke, but just a line he has in here that I skipped over. He's like, I can't tell you how many times I run into people that who already know me. But that's part of the. I thought that was funny. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
he's always meeting people that know him. So she's like, I'm here to help you, and then yeah, roll credits.
It's also a thing too that I appreciate where it's like in Power Rangers continuity, those Omega Rangers came first.
Mhm.
But in our viewing, the Omega SPD Ranger came first. So it's
Right.
cool that they're like, these are both called Omega. The fact that they don't have a connection seems dumb to us. Please
Right.
let us connect them.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
that's what I'm saying.
It you know what it reminds me of? A lot of what they're doing, but like this specifically reminds me of
Rogue One.
when Jeff what?
Rogue One.
Yes, Rogue One, but to be more nerdy and comic booky, Jeff Johns wrote Green Lantern years ago, Rebirth.
Yep.
And he made lots of stuff that had been around for 60 years that didn't make sense and connect things and he didn't contradict anything that came before. He just said, oh, wouldn't it make more sense if this, that, and the other thing? And just made a good story, but also made everything that came before it better by proxy. And I feel like that's this kind of thing here. Like you said, like, why aren't they connected? Oh, well, let's find out how they are connected. And yeah, so.
Yeah, Green Lantern Rebirth, by the way, is one of my favorite comic series of all time. Miniseries of all time.
And I'm not even a big Green Lantern fan. Like well, I'm not a Hal Jordan fan, I should say.
Oh, wrong ring. Dang it. I was going to say me neither, but I'm wearing a Captain America ring today.
Yeah, I'm my two favorite Green Lanterns are Guy Gardner and Kyle Rayner, which is not the usual.
Kyle Rayner's my favorite.
I thought Hal was your favorite.
Kyle
Rayner. I knew that, but you still like Hal more than me, I guess. Like I don't.
Yes.
Other than Rebirth, I've never really enjoyed Hal, I guess.
Well, how much did you read after Rebirth of Hal?
I read Blackest Night and then Brightest Day. And then when they rebooted everything to get more readers in, I stopped reading.
Got it.
Yeah, and that was pretty much the last Green Lantern stuff I read. So it could be awesome now.
Yeah, I haven't read a ton of current stuff, but I do like Hal more than you. You are correct.
Yes.
So overall, we rated the last one. I don't remember what we gave the rating. What would you give this one?
I wish I could remember what you gave the last one. Because what I'd like to do is if the last one got like an A, I'd give this one like an A minus. Yeah, whatever that last one was, I'd do like a half, 1/2 mark lower. It's like B plus, I guess is what comes to mind.
I was going to say the same because everything was good, but this is the setup episode.
Yes,
and you need those. They're a necessary evil.
Yes, going through it with you, I appreciate it more, and I feel the setup more than I did when I watched it by myself. So, and also to be clear, when I'm rating this, and I think you're the same, I'm rating it against itself and this genre, as opposed to because there are episodes of Dino Fury I gave B plus too that I don't think are as good as this.
No,
but I'm rating that. Yeah, I'm rating that against Beast Morphers and Dino Fury and that world.
Yeah,
this I'm rating against itself and Unworthy and other things.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I don't want to seem like we're pandering because a lot of times it seems like I am.
You more than me.
Like I like everybody behind the scenes. I want to stay as neutral as I can. Every episode of this as a whole put together is better than any episode of Dino Fury we've watched and or reviewed. I like Power Rangers from Hasbro. I enjoy it. None of those are better than what Shattered Past has done, and that's just talking about Shattered Past.
Yeah, I mean, there's truth to what you're saying, but it's also tough. Like I used to talk about Toy Story a lot.
Yeah,
like the sequels in Toy Story are amazing, and like Toy Story 2 is definitely better than Toy Story 1, like by most metrics. Well, okay, I think it is. Empire Strikes Back is better than Star Wars. Like
that, I agree with more than what
we'll go with that one. Empire Strikes Back is better than Star Wars, but Empire Strikes Back can't exist without Star Wars.
Agreed.
And that's how I look at these. Like, yeah, there's a lot that's better than official Power Rangers, but this can't exist. It's built on the backs of Power Rangers. So
no, I totally agree.
Oh, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just qualifying my own opinion and farting in my mouth.
I think also I'm just incredibly biased because not loving Dino Fury.
You're disliking it more than me, but I think we've both been kind of disappointed coming off of the end of Beast Morphers, and it's just been we haven't finished the first season yet. Until we finish the first season, and really season 2 is where Beast Morphers really kicked butt too. But it's like it shouldn't take that long. I don't know, whatever. But no, this has been enjoyable. Holy crap, we're at an hour now, so
I
we're
know.
gonna be done. We were originally going to do Rise of the Ninja episode 2 tonight. Remember that?
We were. I know.
Yeah. We will do that, not next week, probably the week after. Next week we'll be back to Dino Fury. Somewhere in there, the Dino Fury Christmas special is going to be up. I'm not going to get into it now, but copyright strikes are involved, and so there's a time limit before I could release that, but it is filmed and ready.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I have been Gazbot.
I have been and continue to be the big dog.
And to the power.
See you guys later.
Bye.
I think on one of the next episodes we should talk about the reveal of the next Sentai series. I don't know if you looked at all.
I have seen bits. I have seen the visuals. I haven't seen much. I know it exists. Can't remember the name, and I've seen the visuals.
It's like Dawn Brothers or something.
Yeah, my gut reaction is like, oh, this looks terrible. And is this the end of Super Sentai? That's my gut reaction.
My understanding is it's the sequel series.
That's what I've heard. I haven't seen the one before. I know it's well liked, and from what I've seen, it looks really good. So but here's the thing: when I saw the suits for Tokudra, I'm like, that looks horrible, and I watched it.
And you loved it.
So my first impressions are kind of meaningless. But when I saw it, and when I say is this the end of Super Sentai, I don't even necessarily mean that like it's going off the air, but like, is this the end of Super Sentai as we know it? Is this some new like, oh, now it's just for kids? And I mean, it's always been for kids, but I mean like little kids, and you know, I don't know. We could talk about it in some other episode. It has nothing to do with this.
That's what I said, and then you were like, actually, my opinion is now.